Welcome to Shooting Straight. I'm Brad Carlyon, your Navajo County Attorney, and unfortunately, Sheriff Klaus could not make it this week, so Chief Deputy Swanty has joined us. And our guest this month is Nancy Huser with the Arizona Game and Fish. Thank you, Nancy.
Thanks for having me.
So, how long have you been with Arizona Game and Fish?
10 years this month.
And what all do you do for Game and Fish?
So I'm their East Sector Off-Highway Vehicle Officer. So I go out and I enforce off-highway vehicle laws. And in between times, I do fishing licenses, hunting checks, and just whatever comes up that's necessary.
So when you say Eastern Sector, where is that?
Okay, so Region 1 is broken down into two sectors, East and West. I cover from the Apache Reservation line right outside of Pine Top to the New Mexico border, Adamana on I-40 down to Morenci.
Oh, wow.
That's so I cover game management units 1, 27, and all the 2s.
Wow.
So how many square miles is that?
I have no idea, but it's awesome. And then there's another OHV officer that covers the West Sector, which is obviously Pine Top all the way to the rim, and covers units 3A, B, and C, and 4A and B.
So do you have to be a certified law enforcement officer for your job?
Yes, you do.
And
I don't need to have a degree, but I have to have be a law enforcement officer. But I do have a degree, so.
And Game and Fish used to require degrees of all their officers, didn't they?
For wildlife managers, they have to have a degree, yes.
Okay.
So.
And how long have you been in law enforcement?
30 years, I think. Close to 30 years.
So you've only been Game and Fish for 10.
Yes.
You did something else in law enforcement, I assume, before that.
I did.
What did you do?
Well, I got to play as a Navajo County deputy and loved it. It was lots of fun.
And what made you switch?
Good opportunity. This is a dream job. My degree is in college was working towards an outdoor education and type of field job. And it just happened that the opportunity opened up and I could slide right into it. So it's a beautiful thing.
You'd mentioned part of your job is OHV.
Correct.
What is OHV? What does that mean?
So it's off-highway vehicles. And an off-highway vehicle is a motorcycle, an ATV, or a UTV, a side-by-side. That's what covers those. And then snowmobiles actually are also off-highway vehicles.
I didn't know that. I didn't know a snowmobile was considered one of them. So you do the OHV enforcement.
Correct.
So there's been a change probably in the last 10 years about how those are regulated or what have you in the forest. Can you tell us a little bit about the program?
Well, the program actually started in 2009, the OHV, having to have a decal and stuff. And Arizona is a registration state for motor vehicles. So you have to register your motor vehicle with MVD, and then the decal program started, and then you would buy your decal through motor vehicle department at the same time. And by having that, it gives you reduced registration on your machine also. So.
But I get 2 bills.
You're supposed to get 2 bills, yes.
Yes, I get 2 bills. But the
Yes.
registration isn't as bad as my other vehicles.
Isn't that nice though? Yeah, you pay
Yes.
$25 for your decal, and your registration maybe $8 maybe or so.
It was kind of nice.
Yeah.
But since there is that lower fee for registration, and they can be also licensed for the street, does that cause any confusion that you find with the people that you deal with?
Yes, lots of confusion. So my advice to people when they register their machine is to do it primarily off-highway or off-road. That's what you want to go into motor vehicle and say, this is how I want to register my Arizona machine. That allows you to drive on the streets and on the forest. And it really, the confusing part is when you're in the forest, the roads in the forest, they tell you all motor vehicles must be street legal. So street legal is legal, street legal registration, which is having your registration that expires yearly or whatever. And most of the time they'll ask you, hey, do you drive to Circle K? And it's like, well, that's not the question you need to ask me when I'm trying to register my machine. You have to say, well, I'd be on a maintained Forest Service road. So for examples, maintained is a horizontal numbered road. So Apache Stick Race Forest is great because that's how they designate roads that need to have street legal plates and roads that don't. If it's a vertical numbered road, usually they're 3 or 4 digits and a letter or so in there. And those are non-maintained roads at all. Kids can drive on them with no problem. They have to have their helmets on, of course, but they can drive on them, not have to have a driver's license. If you're on a maintained road like the 117 road, the 300 road, 182 road, I'm trying to think of roads in this area, those are horizontal numbered roads, and those are street legal roads. So you have to have a driver's license. Drivers all have to be 16. Of course, if you're under 18, you got to have your helmet on. You have to have insurance on your machine, and both registration. You know, your street legal registration and your OHV decal.
So the 117 road, I'm going to test my knowledge here a little bit. The 117 road goes in by Greens Peak.
Correct.
Connects Highway 60 and 260. The 182, is that the McNary Vernon road?
No, that's a 224 road.
It's 224.
So the 182 is out of Lakeside. I believe it goes up towards
Springer Mountain.
Springer Mountain
Lake
Lookout.
Mountain.
Yeah, I believe that's the direction that one goes.
And then 300 is the rim road.
Yeah,
Runs
300
all the way
goes
across.
all the way across. Yeah, like 56 miles or so of road. At least that's in Navajo County, and then it jumps across and shoots off Coconino on its way.
So just to recap there, if you're under 18, they need to have a helmet on.
Correct.
At all times, whether they're on a horizontal designated road or a vertical. If they're and then if there was something about 16.
Street legal.
Street legal. There we go.
So you have to have a driver's license to drive on a city street or on a maintained Forest Service road.
Okay. So you've got a couple of things to look at here.
Yeah. So a lot of times we see people out with their kids and they're in a UTV and they're not understanding the law on UTVs, and so you'll see a lot of kids riding these really cool looking helmets. All right, but that's a bicycle helmet, foam on the inside, and it's great if you're riding a bicycle, because what's a bicycle weigh? 20
pounds,
40
20
pounds,
yeah.
something. Yeah, exactly. So if you were to get rolled over or have an accident with one, and we did this with an OHV, we drove over a bicycle helmet, and there's no protection. It crushes in, and there's no protection for your head. So what the law requires is that kids under 18 have to have helmets, and they need to be DOT helmets. Just
DOT is Department of Transportation?
Yeah, Department of Transportation. Look on the back of the helmet. If it says DOT, you know that's the right helmet for your kid to be wearing. It doesn't have to be a full face helmet. They have open face where this part's not on there, but it needs to say DOT. Now, if you have a child that's 3 or 4 years old and they're in a car seat, and the car seat has the head protection, the good head protection, no helmet's necessary. Your kid can ride in a UTV in a car seat with no helmet on.
So car seat laws apply to your UTVs if they're on a maintained forest road or street.
It doesn't matter. The kid under 18 has to have a helmet on or be in a
right,
safe. Yes.
But do the car seats apply? And the laws regarding car seats?
That's interesting. But the seatbelt laws are the same. So I'm saying yes, that the car seat is. But the thing with kids with helmets is don't put a kid in a helmet in a car seat, because they're stuck like this the whole way, and you'll break their neck. So as long as they're protected and it's safe. I don't want to see, and I've seen this, an 8-year-old in a car seat that's just a booster seat that has a little thing in the back that raises up and does little fake head protection for them. That's not what we're talking about. Those kids need to have helmets on. My grandkids are 5 and 7. This is one of their helmets. All right. They make youth sizes. This was purchased at Walmart. I'm not trying to promote a store or anything, but they're $30-some. So when people say, "Oh, I can't get a helmet for my kid," I'm like, "Yeah." And if you want to hold it, they're lightweight. There's nothing.
Oh yeah.
It looks bulky, but
it's super light.
It's a very lightweight helmet. So, but it does the job. It protects the kid's head.
It's really not that much more weight than the styrofoam.
Tons more protection.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So when you're out and about, doing your enforcement, what are the typical violations that you see, that you run into most of the time?
Helmets and kids.
Helmets and kids.
That's probably the biggest. The first thing I see is a kid without a helmet, and that's going to be a stop, or reckless operation. I mean, when you see somebody racing down a road, and granted, when it's windy and it's dry up there right now, super dry up there right now on the mountain, you'll see dust flying, but you can tell when somebody's swerving and taking a corner and fishtailing it around, and that's just reckless operation. You're not controlling the machine.
I've had people ask me a lot, when you're out on the forest, what's the speed limit? What is, how fast can you go? And, I revert back to state law. State law, basically, if I remember right, it's been a few minutes, but if it's not posted, the default is 35 miles an hour. Is that kind of the same thing with?
Exactly. Okay. If it's not posted, it's 35. A lot of the forest areas are posted 25, and reasonable and prudent falls into it. Yeah. I mean, if you have a busy holiday weekend or just a busy weekend, just since this COVID issue has come about, we see a lot more people in the forest and driving those Forest Service roads. So a typical maybe middle of the week when there should be nobody usually out there, it's packed. So reasonable and prudent on your driving.
One of the things that the sheriff's office we're pushing with, because this time of year, summertime comes up, and there's a ton of people that come into our forest area. Then everybody's got a side-by-side and an ATV, and they're a lot of fun. I've enjoyed riding and driving those things my entire life as well. But the reckless behavior, and then also the impaired driving. Do you run into quite a bit of that?
I haven't seen a ton of that, honestly. But yes, you can get a DUI on an ATV or on an off-highway vehicle. We'll just call it an OHV, and that will affect your driving record. It's just like getting a DUI on the road. So,
does it apply to the non-maintained Forest Service roads, or just maintained?
So it doesn't matter. It's on public land. If you're on public land, you can even get a DUI on private property. So, yes, it does apply. So
yeah, you're operating any vehicle operating a vehicle within the state of Arizona would constitute a DUI if you're under the influence.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, but I think a lot of the issue we see is speed probably out there. I think that's probably where the most of the accidents have occurred, is just by speed and not being totally familiar with your vehicle. And it's not if you're going to have an accident, it's when you're going to have an accident. Yeah. And an accident is something that you didn't plan on happening. It doesn't mean you have to roll it and, rip your ear off. I've done that. So so it doesn't have to be something that is so, where you get seriously injured. It's just something that machine did that I did not want that to happen, and it happened. So
and even if you're out in the forest, your common traffic rules and regulations may not be. You may not have a stop sign. You may not have a traffic signal, but there's still the same rules apply out in the forest, yielding and driving on the right side of the roadway, even though there's not a stripe in the road. You see a lot of that where people are just driving all over the place.
Yeah, they drive down the middle of the road, which if you're doing it reasonably, that's and people are following the speed limit, that's fine. But you also got to remember it's uneven terrain. I mean, you're not driving on pavement, you're driving on a gravel road, and you could hit a rock or anything that could just jar your handlebars or whatever and push you off to the side, or just like a truck coming at you.
Yeah.
I mean, not everybody is courteous out there, which people hopefully will start being or should be, because when they blow by you and they get dust, I mean, that's why one of the laws says you have to have eye protection. As the driver, you have to have eye protection unless you have a windshield on your machine. So there's so many factors out there that you don't even think about, like when you're driving a car, because it's just natural, I think, for people on pavement to have control. But out there, it's you just don't know what the elements are going to bring or what the next curve is going to bring you.
And I think a lot of people they get their hot rod machine, their nice big side by side with 1,000 cc's, and they feel like this is the time I can just test this thing out and go as fast as I want, and because there's not a whole lot of people out there, but you get somebody else coming the other direction. Now you've got a serious threat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And usually the guy on the OHV is going to lose it. So.
So how many serious accidents do you get in your sector every year?
So we always have a fatality, at least one fatality. Haven't had one this year. You guys dealt with one already in the West sector. But last year we had a 16-year-old who rolled a UTV and passed. So
were they seatbelted or?
I don't believe there's a seatbelt. It was a speed issue, I believe. So I mean, I didn't do the report or anything. So I'm just that's usually what happens.
So just in our area, we get.
Every year.
Numerous injury crashes throughout the year. We have had a fatality involving a side-by-side this year. Very unfortunate that those things occur. But I think just going back to the same safety considerations out in the forest on the side-by-sides, basically what you're saying is the same thing on the streets. Wear your seatbelt, wear your helmets. And they're there to design to keep you from sustaining injury.
Correct.
I know for spending as many years as I did investigating traffic crashes, and you'd have a motorcycle wreck, and it would be just a simple minor crash, but the individual does not have their helmet on and they hit their head, and it goes from a non-injury crash with a scuffed up helmet to serious physical injury or a fatality, just because of the lack of safety equipment.
Exactly.
And that's what we're trying to push at the sheriff's office, and I know your office is doing the same thing, and you do it each and every day.
Yep, exactly.
What kind of fines are there for no helmets?
It's up to the judge, so we don't have a bond schedule set, so it's up to the judge to make the determination.
Then I assume the speeding fines are the same as if you're in a municipality?
Yep. And most of ours go into the county justice courts, so.
And carries the same points and everything else that impacts your insurance.
Yeah. Exactly.
Wow. What do you think is the busiest side? I'm sure the west sector guys will say we're the busiest, and you'll say you're the busiest on the east side.
So I'll actually say the west sector. I will say the west sector is probably the busiest. Area? And that's only the rim, because folks don't have to drive that far. They come out of Phoenix and they're an hour and a half invested time into getting there. I kind of feel like people that come all the way up to Big Lake and what have you, our area, they seem pretty squared away. I mean, I'm not saying we have our share of citations, but I think they're traveling almost 4 or 5 hours to get to where they're going up there, and they don't want the hassle, or and they just seem pretty more squared away. It's more of a thought process. It's like, if I'm going out and I'm going to drive that distance, I better put gas in my car, right? And it's like, well, if I'm going to ride my OHV, I better make sure that decal is current on there, and I have my helmets for my kids. A lot of times they leave the helmets at camp. They're like, oh, we have the helmets. They're just sitting at camp. I'm like, why'd you bring them then? Put them on your kid's head. Or they're sitting beside them because the kids get tired of wearing them. Yeah. But I just think people that come, and which I'm happy with, and plus I think our enforcement efforts out there have helped a ton, and our
education component.
Education, that's what I was going to get to, but I think the folks that make that quick trip up, that's where they seem to have a lot more issues and stuff. So. Yeah.
Well, very good. So, what other aspects in your job you're saying? So you do the hunts and the fishing and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So, when they hand out all these elk permits, it gets busy in your area, I suppose.
It does, yes. Yeah. And the OHV laws still apply, whether you're hunting or just recreating. Your kids still need to have helmets on. We still enforce the same rules, same OHV decal and stuff.
And you can't shoot from your side by side either.
Correct.
Right?
It's just like shooting from a vehicle. Yeah, if you're on a vehicle. If you have a champ permit, I mean, that's a whole different thing you need to look into. And
what is a champ permit?
A champ permit, if there's somebody who has a disability that can't maybe hike and do whatever, they can actually shoot from a vehicle. And they have a permit, and they have a designated person that's their helper during that time or whatever.
Like a handicapped person or something like that, maybe?
Just disabled, yeah. There's a lot of disabilities that you have to apply for the permit, and then it's looked through down in the department, and then they issue the permit for the person. So that gives everybody that opportunity, that chance, to be out there and doing their thing. So, and then the other thing is like, you brought up the hunting thing. So you have resource damage too. You don't want people out there, running across a riparian area, which is, like a marsh area or whatever. You're allowed to, gather your harvest, with a vehicle and what have you, but by not causing resource damage, that's a big thing. Or like driving in a wilderness area, you can't do those kind of things. And the wilderness area, you can't even take anything wheeled in there or mechanical device. And then we have, and our region is unique to having habitat areas. And there's so many, I forget the total number. I was going to throw it out, but I can't throw it out. There's habitat areas that you cannot, it's a non-motorized area. It's a quiet area for the animals. And that's year-round, most of them. Some have a season on them, but the majority of ours are year-round. Quiet areas. So trying to keep people out from driving in there. You can hike in there, you can hunt in there, you can do all those things. You just can't drive a motorized vehicle in there. And a snowmobile is a motorized vehicle. That's why I was bringing that up earlier, saying that you can't be driving in those areas. And those are areas that we patrol heavy because it's a unique, cool place that people like to hike in and check things out. And it's a quiet, not even for the animals, but for the people hiking around in there. You shouldn't be coming across an off-highway vehicle in those areas, or a vehicle at all.
Are they usually pretty well marked? Very
well marked, yes. Yep, and people just need to read the signs. I mean, they're there, and I hate seeing signs everywhere, but that's our best, avenue for us to enforce, and there it is. I mean, you got to stop and read the sign for 5 seconds, and it'll tell you road closed or area closed. And
or they'll have a vehicle with a line through it. Don't drive this in. But you can hike and you can
horseback, hike, bicycle. Exactly.
So we're coming in. We're in the midsummer now, or coming into summer, and a lot of your hunts start to pick up here in the next few months.
Yep.
And what are some of the bigger issues you see other than the OHV during hunting season?
as far as possibly, well, people hunting from vehicles, people chasing, harassing wildlife. They'll chase, like they'll see a herd of elk, and they'll throw their hunter out, and they'll race down the road and try to bring that herd back using their vehicles to herd the animal back.
Like herding cattle around.
Pretty much, yeah.
Really?
It's harassment.
Okay.
So yeah, you can't do that kind of stuff. But people do that kind of stuff.
What about spotlighting? Spotlighting is legal to do, but there's some regulations on that.
Right. So you're legal to spotlight, and more than likely, if you're spotlighting and we see you, we're probably going to stop and talk with you to find out. But having a loaded firearm or having a means of take, a weapon in the vehicle to take an animal, and you don't have to kill it. It's just you're in the act of taking by spotlighting it, locating it. And by you having the weapon or whatever, the means of take, that is a violation. So, yeah, you can spotlight all night long. I used to love doing it with my kids, go out and, fake bugle an elk because I couldn't, right? And, of course, they want to scream back at you because you sound really bad. And it's fun. And you get to see wildlife, at night. And the kids loved it. And we can spotlight all night long. But just don't have that means of take with you.
Just don't chase them and don't have a weapon with you.
Yep, pretty much. A means of take.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to enjoy that as well. Growing up here, we did a lot of spotlighting when we were kids, and it's amazing how close you can get to the animals and whatnot.
Exactly. There's very few animal that you can hunt with a light at night. You can't in certain areas, units in our state, you can hunt coyote with a flashlight. Let's say a light that's not attached to your vehicle, but there's a certain type of weapon you're allowed to use and stuff like that. We don't have that up in our area because we have obviously other kinds of animals that we don't want people to be shooting at.
I had no idea that there was even a provision to do that. I thought you could never use artificial light for any hunt.
Right, and
but there is.
I believe raccoons. I believe is another one.
Raccoons and coyotes. I'll be
in
darned.
certain areas, yeah. But
I'll be darned.
not attached to your vehicle.
I did not know
your light
that.
can't be attached to your vehicle. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Okay. So people, we got hunting seasons and whatnot, but there's a small faction of people that don't like to follow the rules, and they don't go get a hunting license, or they don't get a tag, and they go and they take an animal. It's a big issue. Big issue in this country. I've heard people talking about it for years. Of poaching is a real problem.
Correct.
And what do you do if somebody comes across somebody that they suspect maybe has poached an animal, or they know it's not hunting season, and there's somebody out walking around with a deer rifle and obviously are not following the rules? How do you
or skinning an elk in their driveway, and you're like, wait a minute, it's not elk season.
Yeah, right.
So that person, they can call Operation Game Thief. We have a 1-800 number, 1-800-352-0700. They call that number. They can be anonymous, and they give the tip, and then we can go out and look. I mean, there's some legit reasons why somebody might be skinning an elk in July, because actually there is a hunt. It's a year-round hunt over the counter in St. John's area and in Holbrook area. Yeah, they're trying to, eradicate elk in those areas that don't need, they're harassing the hunters, or I'm sorry, the ranchers' fields and stuff. So they put a special hunt provision out, and people can buy, get the tag and go hunt. And so you might be like, why is that guy skinning it? And then we go check it, and yeah, he has a tag, he's legit, legal. It could be a roadkill. You hit, you smash car, elk hanging in the, in the garage. There's probably a correlation to what happened there or whatever. So there could be some legit reasons also why somebody could be doing that. But we treat every tip as it could be a potential problem or issue. We'll go out and investigate. Being fair to the guy that we're checking on, because there's all these reasons they could be doing what they're doing. Yeah. So.
And what you mentioned a vehicle incident. What are the rules behind the if you're driving down the road and you hit an elk or a deer? What are the rules on that as far as harvesting?
So as of right now, it's changing, but as of right now, the person that hits the animal gets the animal type of thing, or they can give it to somebody. So
they can gift it or something.
They can gift it. Yeah, you can get what you get is a salvage permit, and sheriff's office carry them. I believe our permits. DPS carries them. We have them. So if an animal does get hit, we can sign a salvage permit over to that person, and then that's why when we go check them, why they'll be skinning that elk in July or whatever, and they'll have that salvage permit with them. saying that they did it. So you're not allowed to pick up an animal that somebody else hit and left behind type of thing.
You said it's changing. When is it changing and how is it changing?
So I don't have all the total details on it. I believe that it's changing, that that animal could be given to somebody who didn't hit it. So if somebody pulls up and says, yeah, that guy just hit it and he just left, and the animal's, and the officer's still standing there and there's a dead animal, that they could actually write a salvage permit to another person.
I see.
So that is coming. That is coming.
Was that passed this last legislative
I believe
session?
it did. It's just I don't know all the formalities, so I don't want to give false information.
It'll be 90 days after the legislature adjourns, and who knows when that'll be this session.
And I don't know all the details, so I don't want to say, yeah, that's how it's going to be, and you'll be like, that's not what it says.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's good. If those are in fact the changes that are in there, that's I know I ran into it quite a few times. The person that hit it was like, I want nothing to do with this, and somebody else comes and they want to harvest that animal, and it's sad to see them go to waste on the side of the road.
Exactly.
Very, very sad. But if we can get harvest out of it, I think that's a great thing.
Well, and the thing is, it's got to be like it immediately got killed type of thing. You don't want to find something a day later and go, hey, I want that animal. I'm like, no, you don't.
Yeah. Right.
So.
Unfortunately, Nancy, we're out of time.
No
Thank
way.
you so very much for joining us and sharing all this wonderful information. And thank you for joining us this month with Shooting Straight. And please stay tuned for this month's Most Wanted.
Aaron Patrick Payne, 32 years old, has a valid and confirmed felony warrant for failure to appear on original charges of possession of dangerous drugs and possession of drug paraphernalia. Aaron's last known address was Sholo, Arizona. Aaron is 5'7", 215 pounds, with blue eyes and blonde hair. If you have any information of the whereabouts of Aaron, please call the Navajo County Communications Center at 928-524-4050, or to remain anonymous, please call WeTip at 1-800-78-CRIME.